Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will learn how to create data using SQLite database. This is basically a notes app series where I will teach you how to create a note, display the note, update the note, and finally delete the note. It's like a CRUD series for SQLite database, as well as it's a fully functional notes app. Cool, right? I have already created a CRUD series for Firebase real-time database, so if you are interested in it, you can click on the I button to watch. So now, coming back to today's video, let me give you a quick preview what exactly we are going to create. See, all the notes will be displayed here. Then when you click on floating action button, it will lead you to add note page. Let me quickly write title and content. Now I'll click on save button and see note is displayed. Also, as you can see, we have a title with content and edit and delete options as well. So I'll click on edit. Then I'll write something different. And then I'll click on save changes. And see note is updated. Then I'll click on delete button. And note is successfully deleted. Perfect, right? As we are using SQLite database, so there is no tension about Firebase expiring or online database. It's all local database present inside your device files. At the end of this video, I'll show you how to access the SQLite database. Okay, so for that, stay tuned till the end. Also, a better way to store data is to use Room database. Hence, I'll be covering Room database, API, and other important topics in upcoming Android Kotlin Advanced series starting from September. So please make sure to subscribe my channel. Now let's create the Notes app. Choose Empty Views activity. Write the name as Notes SQLite and click on Finish. Let's do the prerequisite first. So go to colors.xml. Duplicate the line using Ctrl+D. Then write the color name as orange and hex code as ED5F1E. And done. Next, go to themes.xml, uncomment this line and write color as orange. Now duplicate the line and write the item name as color primary variant. Again duplicate the line and write the item name as Android status bar color. And done. Then, as we will be using view binding, so go to Gradle module. Over here, write build features. Then inside it, write view binding is equal to true. Then click on sync now. And done. Now this time, I won't be using any background images. Instead, we will use vector assets and border only. So to do that, first right click on drawable, then new, and then vector asset. Search for add. And done. Then search for done. And done. Now to make edit text look more fancy, I'll create a border around it. So right click on drawable, then new, and then drawable resource file. Write the name as orange border and root element as shape. Now here I'll keep the shape as rectangle. Then as I said, it's a border, so I'll use stroke attribute. And inside it, width as 1 dp, color as orange. Then to make corners a little bit rounded, I'll use corners attribute and inside it radius as 8 dp. And that's it. Now as we will be storing a node, so for that I'll create a new activity as add node activity. So let me quickly create it. And done. Now all the prerequisites are done. Close the tabs. Let's move to layouts. So go to activity main.xml. Here data will be displayed using recycler view, which we will cover in the next video. But for now, let's focus on storing the data. We will simply going to create a floating action button at the bottom. So when the user will click on it, it will lead him to add node screen. Simple, right? So let me quickly write it. And done. See, we have a relative layout as a parent layout. Then we have created floating action button whose ID is add button. Then positioned it. Then add icon. And then lastly, icon and background color. And that's it. Now let's create add node. So go to activity add node.xml. Here we will create a text view as a heading and then beside it an image view as a save button. Okay. Then below that two edit text as title and content. Simple, right? So let me quickly create it. And then see, I have used relative layout as parent layout. Then inside it a text view whose ID is add node heading. Also one more thing I need to add over here is font family. So go to design. Click on text view and find font family. Scroll and click on more fonts. Search for Poppins regular and add to the project. And that's it. Then beside the text view, I have created an image view whose ID is save button with done icon. Let me quickly change the color of icon to orange. And done. Then below that I have created an edit text whose ID is title edit text with orange border around it. As it's a title, so I have kept the maximum line as 1. Means you can't write more than 1 line. Also, I'll add font as Poppins. Then similarly, I have created another edit text whose ID is content edit text. As it's a description, so I have kept the height as match parent. Also, let me quickly add font as well. And done. That's it. This is how add node screen will look. I'll scroll slowly so that you can pause the video and copy the code. Alright, layouts are done. Now it's time for logic. First, I'll go to main activity. As I said, this is where read data will be performed, but for now, I'll set an intent on the add button. That's it. So first, let me quickly create binding. And done. Then inside on create, write binding dot add button, that is our floating action button, dot set on click listener. and then inside it, create an intent. That goes from this activity to add note activity. Finally, start the activity intent. And that's it. Now comes the actual SQL part. Remember, whenever we store data, we need to create a data class. Data class is basically where we will mention all the data with their data type. So let me quickly create it. Right click on it. Click on new, then Kotlin class file. Name it as note. And then choose data class. We will be storing 3 data parameters: ID, title and content. Title and content, that is basically provided by user through add note, right? ID is something which we will provide as a unique value to each data, okay? So I'll write ID as integer, then title as string, and then content also as string. And that's it. Simple, right? Now we need to create SQLite database, table, columns and all the queries. So where do we create that? Inside the notes database helper class. Right click on it, then new and then Kotlin class. Write the name as notes database helper. Now over here, 3 important things. First, we will extend SQLite open helper and create it 2 method. Second, we will create constant, basically database name, version, table name and column name. Third, insert node function where we will insert the data into the database. Simple, right? Let's create it. First, we will create all the constant. So to create constant, first we will create companion object and then inside it mention all the constants. First one is private constant database name as notesapp.db. Then duplicate the line and write database version as 1. Then again duplicate the line and write table name as all notes. Similarly, let me quickly create for other parameters as well. And done. See, we have column ID as ID, then column title as title, and column content as content. And that's it. Now I will extend the class. So follow me. I'll declare context that basically represents the node database helper. Then extend it as SQLite open helper. Now inside it, we need to mention 4 parameters. First is context, then database name constant, then cursor factory as null. In simple word, cursor factory creates cursor object and that cursor object acts as a pointer to read data from the database. So passing it as null means using the default cursor factory. And then lastly, database version constant. Now implement both the members of SQLite open helper. First is on create and second is on upgrade. In on create, we will create the table using create table query, and in on upgrade, we will drop the table using drop table query. As we are dealing with SQLite, so I assume that you are aware about queries, and even if you are not aware, then don't worry, you will find all the query syntax on the internet. So let me quickly write it. And done. See, I have changed the variable name. Then this is what create table looks like. The words which you see in orange color are the predefined syntax like create table. Then I have mentioned the table name. And then inside it, I have mentioned all the columns with their data types like column ID as integer, and also it's a primary key. So primary key is a concept of SQL, which means ID has to be unique. Then column title as text, and then column content also as text. Query is created, then executed means run it using execute SQL method. Simple, right? Similarly, let me quickly create for on upgrade as well, and done. See, I have renamed the variables. Then this is how drop table query looks like. Drop table if exist, then I have mentioned the table name. We use drop table query to remove similar table name if exist. Then execute query, and then new table is created using onCreate method. Like, it should not be the case where we have multiple table with similar names. So to avoid that, first we drop the same name table and then create a new table. Got it? Now we will create an insert node function. So first let me quickly create it. And done. See, I have passed the node data class in a node variable. Then I have kept the DB, that is SQLite database, as writable database. Means it can be modified. And then I have added a content values class. So basically content values is a class that is used to store values associated with column names. Okay. So content values dot apply. Apply is like it allows you to perform operations. Then inside it, put basically takes the argument. So first is column title, that will store the node.title, that is basically the data parameter present in the data class. You can press Ctrl and click on it to see where exactly it comes from. Got it? See, this is exactly what we are accessing over there. So come to Nodes Database Helper again. Similarly, I have done for column content as well. That will store the content that is present in the data class. Now you might be wondering, we have put title and content in columns, then why not ID? Because ID is provided by SQLite database as a unique serial number. Then all the columns are present in the values variable. So next, this is where we have actually inserted the data into the database using insert method. Here we have three parameters in it. First, we have inserted the table name. Then second, we have kept the null column hack as null because it inserts an empty row inside the table. As we don't want an empty row, so I have kept it as null. And then lastly, values, which is basically our columns. Once everything is inserted, then close the database connection. Simple, right? Now, it is showing error because I did a silly mistake over here. Pause the video and see if you are able to figure it out. This is your hint. If you are able to figure it out, then great. And if no, I'll show you. Everything is correct here except database version. Whenever we write numbers or integers, we are not supposed to write them inside double quotes, right? So I'll remove it. Now see, the error is gone. As it's a first video of this series, everything might look little complicated to you. Hence, I am explaining it in very detail, okay? So data is created, database is created. Now it's time to set everything in add note activity. So go to add note activity. First, let me quickly set a binding. And done. Then next, as we have to access database, so we will declare db as nodes database helper. And also make sure to initialize it. And done. Now all of this storing of data will happen only if save button is clicked. So write binding dot save button dot set on click listener, and then inside it, let me quickly write it. And then see, first I have taken the inputs from the user through edit text using .text method. So it goes like title is stored inside the title variable, and similarly content is stored inside the content variable. Then I have passed the arguments inside the node, that is basically a data class. Remember, always pass the arguments in exact positions, like go to node data class. Over here, first is ID, then title, and then content. Okay? So come back to add node activity. Even over here, the first is ID, that will start from 0. Then title, which is given by the user, and then content, that is also given by the user. Now we have stored 3 of them in node variable. Then we have access the database and then insert node function, which we created before, right? And then inside it, I have passed the argument as node variable. Got it? Lastly, I have used finish method that basically closes the activity. So if add node activity is closed, then automatically it will go to main activity. It's like using intent only, that goes from this activity to main activity. But at this point, using finish method will do the same job. Okay? And then toast as node saved. And that's it. We are done with the coding. Now let's run the app. See, first screen is main activity. Then I'll click on add button, and here we are on the add node screen. I'll quickly write title and content. And done. Now I'll click on save button, and see, the toast saves as node saved. And also we are redirected automatically to main activity. As we have not yet displayed the data, so you won't see node over here, but the data is stored in the database. So now the question is, how do we access the database? Earlier I used a plugin called Simple SQLite Browser, but now it's not compatible with new Android Studio. Now there are 2 ways to do that. First is using Database Inspector in Android Studio itself. I was facing issue with database inspector, hence I am going for second way, that is to access database in SQLite database browser software. I have mentioned the software download link in the description box. Now we need to download the database and open it in SQLite database. So to do that, make sure device is running. Then open Device File Explorer. Click on Data. Then again Data. And then inside it find your project package name. And then inside it click on Database. Here you will find your database name as notesapp.db. Select it and click on Download. Then come to SQLite database software. Click on Open Database and select the database which we downloaded before. Now come to Browse Data. Here select a table name, that is all notes, and see all the columns are displayed. So we have ID, title and content. That means our data is successfully stored in its respective columns. Cool, right? Alright, so don't forget to watch the next video where I'll be displaying the data in the recycler view. So yeah, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing to my channel and I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will learn how to read or display data using SQLite database. This is part 2 of Notes app. In part 1, we have stored the notes in the SQLite database. So if you have not watched it yet, you can click on the I button to watch. Let me give you a quick recap what exactly we created in the last video. So I'll click on Add Note. Then I'll write title and content quickly. Now I'll click on Save. And see, the toast says Note saved. But as you can see, it's not visible here because obviously we have not yet implemented display feature. Also, let me show you where exactly the note was saved. See, we have ID, title and content stored in the SQLite database. Now coming back to the project, previously to store the notes, we have created Note Data class, Notes Database Helper, and Add Note activity. And now to display the notes, we will be creating Recycler view. And I assume that you are aware how Recycler view works, right? We will create an item layout, then adapter, and then of course SQL query to display all the notes. Got it? Now let's create it. There is no prerequisite, so let's directly go to layouts. As I said, we will be implementing Recycler view. So first, go to activity main.xml. In previous video, we had created a floating action button to add note. So on the top of that, we will create a notes heading text view and obviously a recycler view. So let me quickly create it and done. See, here first we have a relative layout as a parent layout. Then inside it, a text view whose ID is notes heading. Then below that, a recycler view whose ID is notes recycler view. And that's it. This is how it looks. Now we have a recycler view, so obviously with that we will require an item layout. So to create that, right click on layout folder, then new, and then layout resource file. Write the name as note item. Choose card view. And OK. Here I'll be creating two text view. One is for title and another one is for content. Simple, right? So let me quickly create it. And done. See, we have a card view, then inside it a linear layout, and then again inside it a relative layout. Then inside this relative layout, we have a text view whose ID is title text view. This is where the title will be displayed. And then outside the relative layout, we have another text view whose ID is content text view. And that's it. This is how it looks. In my upcoming video, here we will implement edit and delete option as well. So stay tuned for that. Now layouts are done and now it's time for logic. First, we will implement SQL query. And to do that, go to Notes Database Helper. Here previously I have created all the constants as well as SQLite Open Helper and also insert note function. And now I'll create a new function called as getAllNodes. So let me quickly write it. And done. See, I have created a getAllNodes function which extends the list of node data class. Then inside it, I have created an empty nodes list that is basically a mutable list, which means that can be modified or it's flexible. Because this node list will carry all the data, so the user will keep adding new nodes, right? Hence, it needs to be flexible. Then we don't need to modify, we just need to read the data. Hence, I have used readable database method. Then our main query. In SQL, to view entire table, we use a very simple query that goes like select star from the table name. Then to execute this query, we will use raw query method. And then it stores the result in a cursor variable. In simple words, a cursor is used to iterate through rows of the table. Then we have used while loop for the iteration purpose. So it goes like cursor dot move to next, means go to next row. But why are we iterating through all the rows? Because we want to retrieve the data as per their index value. As we want to read the data, so we obviously need to retrieve it first, and then using recycler view, we will display it, right? So cursor dot get int as it's an integer. Then inside it, get column index or row column ID. This line retrieves the value of column ID from the current row in the cursor. Similarly, next line in which title is retrieved from the column title and content is retrieved from the column content. When all the three data is retrieved successfully, then pass them as an argument and store it in a node variable. Then add this node in the nodes list which we created before. Lastly, close the cursor as well as the database connection once it is used. And then return the nodes list. This nodes list will act as a list which consists of all the retrieved data from the database. We will use this function in main activity, okay? And that's it. Now, as we are implementing recycler view, so obviously we will require an adapter. So right click on it, new, and then Kotlin class file. Write the name as nodes adapter. Now over here, we will be creating a view holder, then recycler adapter, and then its 3 methods, then lastly a refresh data function, and that's it. So let's create it. First, I'll call the node data class in a list-way format. So private var nodes as list node. So basically, node data class stores the 3 data parameters: ID, title, and content. Then context, which represents the node's adapter. Now I'll extend the class as recycler view dot adapter as node adapter dot node view holder, which we have not created it yet. So first, let me quickly create it. And then, see, we have node view holder with item view that extends the recycler view dot view holder. Then inside it, I have declared and initialized both the elements. Got it? So first is title text view and second is content text view. Once the view holder is created, then implement the 3 members. And then, see, we have onCreate view holder, onBind view holder, and get item count. So in onCreate, we set up the item layout view. Then in onBind, we set data on the element. And then in item count, we return the size. And that's it. Let's create it. So first in onCreate, let me quickly write it. And done. See, we have inflate node item layout using layout inflator. This is all syntax, okay? So it goes like layout inflator dot from the parent context, that is basically the node's adapter itself, and then inflate node item, then root as parent, and then lastly attach to root as false. Now, all of this thing is present inside the view variable. So at the end, return the view as an argument of node view holder. Then come inside the onBind view holder. Here we have holder and position as their parameters. So holder basically helps to set the data and position helps to determine which item was clicked. Okay. Now I'll write well node is equal to. So I want to determine the position of a data list, which I have already declared at the top as nodes, right? So simply we will mention it as nodes position. Then as I said, holder helps to set data. So write holder dot title text view dot text is equal to as node dot title, means whatever the title written by the user should be displayed in the title text view. Similarly, whatever the node content is written by the user, that should be displayed in the content text view. Got it? Then lastly, this is a quick way to write. So int is equal to nodes.size. And that's it. One last thing over here is to create a refresh data function. See, the logic works like we have to keep refreshing or updating the list whenever a new node is inserted. Otherwise, it will display old data. So for that, I'll write fun function, refresh data, then passing the parameter as a new notes whose data type is list, and inside it note data class. So old list, which is basically notes, that will become as new notes list. As it's a reloading process, so we will call notify dataset change, means to inform that something has changed in the data, and that's it. Finally, our adapter is created, and now it's time to set up everything on the recycler view. So go to main activity. So in notes database helper, we have created get all notes function, right? So to access that function, we need to declare and initialize notes database helper. So let me quickly write it. And done. Then obviously, as we are setting up recycler view, so we will require notes adapter as well. So let me quickly declare it. And done. Now we will set up adapter. So I'll write notes adapter is equal to calling the notes adapter class, and inside it we need to mention list of all the nodes from the database and context. So I'll write db dot get all nodes function, which we created before, right? Then this as a context. Simple, right? All of this thing is present inside the nodes adapter. Now let's set up recycler view. So I want my recycler view to be in a linear layout. If you want, you can go for maybe staggered layout or grid layout. But for now, I'll go for linear layout. Hence, I'll write binding dot nodes recycler view. This is our recycler view which we created before, right? Dot layout manager as linear layout manager. This. Then we need to set nodes adapter on the recycler view. So to do that, write binding dot nodes recycler view dot adapter, which is basically a set adapter method, as nodes adapter, and that's it. Data is successfully set up on the recycler view with the help of adapter. Now lastly, we need to set up refresh data method. See, previously we just said that new nodes will be refreshed, yes, right? But we need to mention the data that needs to be refreshed, right? And data is nothing but get all nodes from the database, right? So we can set all of this thing on a button, but it is very annoying to keep clicking that button to refresh. Instead, we will use onResume function. Hence, I'll write override onResume function. OnResume function of an app is like in a state of running. So when the app is open, means it is in OnResume state. Then automatically refresh the data. So to do that, first tell me where is refresh data function present. In nodes adapter, right? So I'll first call nodes adapter, then refresh data method, and then inside it, obviously the data. And where does that data come from? Database, correct. And that is basically a DB. And more specifically through get all nodes. And that's it. We are done with the coding. Now let's run the app. Look, now we can see the node. I created this node previously, so let me quickly create a new node. Alright, I'll click on save. And look, instantly the list is refreshed and now we can see the new node. So the title we wrote is displayed in the title text view and the content that we wrote is displayed in the content text view. Cool, right? Alright, so don't forget to watch the next video where I'll be updating the data in the database. So yeah, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, then please consider subscribing to my channel and I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will learn how to update or edit data using SQLite database. This is part 3 of Notes app. So in part 1 and part 2, we have stored and retrieved the notes using SQLite database. So if you have not watched it yet, you can click on the I button to watch. Let me give you a quick recap what exactly we created in the last video. So I'll click on add note. Then I'll write title and content quickly. Now I'll click on save. And see, the toast says note saved. And also, as you can see, note is displayed with title and content. But there is no edit option, right? Because we have not yet implemented it. And that's what we are going to do in this video. Now open the project. Previously, to store and retrieve the notes, we have created Note Data class, Notes Adapter, Notes Database Helper, Add Note Activity, and Main Activity. And now in this video, we will create an update activity. Got it? So let's create it. For the prerequisite, we need a edit icon. So let me quickly add it. And done. Then next, as we are implementing update feature, so we will need an update activity as well. So let me quickly create it. And done. Now prerequisites are over, so let's move to designing part. First, go to noteitem.xml. Previously, we have used note item layout for displaying the notes in a recycler view. So when notes are displayed, it should be displayed with title and content and edit option. Title and content is already there. Only edit option is not yet implemented. So now we will create an edit option as an image view. Okay? Hence, below the title text view, let me quickly create it. And then, see, we have an image view whose ID is update button with an edit icon. Now, when the user will click on edit icon, it will lead him to update activity, right? So let's design activity update node.xml. The design will be same as add node activity with different IDs. So let me copy it. And now paste it here. Then simply change the context. Then text view ID as edit note heading. And text as edit note. Then next change image view ID as update save button. Then change edit text ID as update title edit text. And then lastly change the next edit text ID as update content edit text. Also, make sure to change the respective IDs as well. And that's it. This is how it looks. Now it's time for logic. So first go to Notes Adapter. Here all we have to do is set intent on update button and pass the ID. That's it. So first I'll declare and initialize it. And done. Now once we have initialized the button, then set on click listener on it. So I'll write holder dot update button dot set on click listener Then inside it, let me quickly create an intent. And then now see, update button and all of these things are present in note item, right? So to access it, we have used holder, item view, context. So when the user will click on edit option, it will lead him to update activity. Usually we write create intent and then start activity. But here we have used apply because we want to pass ID from this to update activity. Hence I have wrote put extra that passes note.id. Consider you wanted to send title, so you would have passed note.title, like that way. Got it? Note underscore ID is like a key value. With the help of it, we will receive the ID in the update activity. But why are we passing ID? Because as we want to edit the data, we should know which data it is, right? Like ID will help to determine the position of note clicked by user. Then simply start the intent. And that's it. Now come to Notes database helper. Here we will create update note function and get note by ID function. Okay. So let's create it one by one. First, let me quickly create update note function. And done. Now see, I have passed note data class as note variable. Then inside it, as we will edit the note, so it should be writable database. Then content values class is used to store column that can be inserted or updated in the database. Then inside apply block, we have used put method, which basically add values such as title and content into their respective columns. Next line defines the SQL where clause. It's a variable that will be used to identify the rows to be updated by its column ID. Then where arguments initialize an array containing the arguments, that is note ID. And then using update data method, so first name of the table in which the data should occur, then values which consist of columns that needs to be updated, then next where clause which determines which row to update, and then where arguments which will act as a substitute into the where clause. Then finally close the database connection. Now next we will create get node by ID function. So let me quickly create it. and done. See, as at the end we want to return node ID. So I have kept node ID as a parameter. As we just want to retrieve the data, so we'll keep the database as readable database. Then this line defines an SQL query. Select star from table name where column ID is equal to node ID. So basically it selects all the columns from a table where the value, that is column ID, should match with the provided node ID. Then execute the query using raw query method and store the result in the cursor variable. And then cursor.move to first moves the cursor to the first row of the result. Then ID, title, content, all of these things are extracted from their respective column with the help of cursor. And then close the cursor as well as database connection. And finally return the node data class with its respective argument, that is ID, title and content. And that's it. Now go to update activity. I'll rename it as update node activity. And make sure to rebuild project when you rename something, otherwise you will face unnecessary errors. First, let me quickly set up binding. And done. Then declare and initialize nodes database helper. And done. Next, I'll declare node ID as int is equal to -1. So -1 or negative integer is the ID which represents that the value is empty. So we will require it to deal with null values. Then remember, through intent we have sent ID from adapter to update node activity. So let's receive it. Let me quickly write it. And done. See, with the help of put extra, we have passed the data. Now with the help of get int extra, we will receive the data. As ID is an integer, hence we have used get int extra. If it will have been string, then in that case we will use get string extra. Okay. Now, as I said, node underscore ID will act as a key. So make sure you write exact value, otherwise it will throw an error. Then we have kept the default value as -1. Means if due to some technical issue ID was failed to pass, then in that case it will return a default value as -1. Means nothing. And if node ID is equal to -1 means no value is received. So close the current activity using finish method and return nothing. Got it? Next, we need to know which node was clicked, and accordingly to that node display title and content. So for that we will require get node by ID function, right? And from where we will get that function? Through nodes database helper, right? Because that's where we created get node by ID function, right? So I'll write well node is equal to db dot get node by ID as node ID which we have received through get int extra. Then as I said, according to that ID we will retrieve title and content as well. So let me quickly write it. And then see, consider maybe you receive the ID as 2. So ID number 2 title will be retrieved and ID number 2 content will be retrieved. Simple, right? Now user will edit it and click on update button. Then what will happen? don't go logically, just answer it simply. I'll tell. So if the user will click on update button, then whatever the new title and new content that user has wrote will be set on title and content text view, right? And now we will have same note ID, new title and new content. And all of this thing will be updated in the database using update note function, which we created in notes database helper. And that's it. Let me quickly write it. And done. See, it will take update title edit text and store it in new title variable. Similarly, whatever is written on update content edit text, that will be stored in a new content variable. Now everything will be passed as an argument. Note ID, new title and new content. And it will be stored in a updated note variable. Then using a update note function from notes database helper, we will update new data in the database. Then finish method will close the current activity and open main activity. Lastly, it will throw a toast as changes saved. And that's it. We are done with the coding. And now let's run the app. Alright, the app got crashed unfortunately. Let's solve this error together. The first thing that we need to check is logcat. So in logcat, more specifically, look out for an entire sentence error. Maybe like this one. It says, item view update save button must not be null. Second thing, we need to see where exactly we have used this line of code. As I remember, it's in notes adapter. Let's see. Here it is. Now see, as it says, it is null, means two situations. Either it is not initialized or different ID is assigned. So in our case, ID is initialized properly, but we have used wrong ID. Silly mistake, I know. See, update save button is a part of update note activity XML, and we wanted it to be an update button of note item. Look, here it is. So let's quickly correct it. And done. Also, you might be wondering, if I have renamed the file as update note activity, then why is it showing activity update binding instead of activity update note binding? Because we have not changed the value of XML file. So I'll rename XML file as well. And then see, it shows a error. Now I'll write here is activity update note binding. Perfect. So now let's run the app again. See, this is how it looks. We have an edit option on each node. So maybe I'll edit this node and consider its node ID as 2. Now see internally how the logic is working. So quickly it passes the ID as 2 and instantly it retrieves the ID number 2, title and content, and then display it here. Now I'll edit it. So it will take both the new title and content with them. And now I'll click on update button and see how quickly the new title and new content is set on the title text view and content text view. Simple, right? Alright, so don't forget to watch the next video where I'll be deleting the node from the database. So yeah, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, then please consider subscribing to my channel and I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will learn how to delete the node from the SQLite database. This is part 4 of Nodes app. So in part 1, part 2 and part 3, we have stored, retrieved and update the nodes using SQLite database. So if you have not watched it yet, you can click on the I button to watch. Let me give you a quick recap what exactly we created in the last video. See, the nodes are displayed here. And also, we can update the node using edit option. Let me show you. And then, but there is no delete option, right? Because we have not yet implemented it. And that's what we are going to do in this video. Now open the project. Previously, to store, retrieve and update the nodes, we have created node data class, nodes adapter, nodes database helper, add node activity, main activity and update node activity. And now in this video we will create a delete node function and that's it. So let's create it. For the prerequisite we need a delete icon. So let me quickly add it. And then we want the icon to be placed on each node in the recycler view, right? So to do that, go to nodeitem.xml. Here we already have title, content and edit button. And now beside edit button, we will create a delete button using image view. So let me quickly create it. And done. See, I have created an image view whose ID is delete button with delete icon. And that's it. Then go to nodes database helper. Here we will create a delete node function. So write function delete node, then pass the parameter as node ID int. Then inside it write well db is equal to, as we are deleting the node means the database is getting modified, right? So I'll write here as writable database. Then write well where clause is equal to column ID is equal to question mark. So basically where clause specify the condition for deletion, like it delete the row where the value in column ID matches with the node ID parameter. Then write well where arguments is equal to array of node ID dot toString. So where arguments array is used to provide values that will replace the placeholder in the where clause. Here the value is node ID parameter. See, in very simple language, the question mark that is present in where clause condition will be replaced by the where arg node ID. And if column ID matches with the node ID given by where arguments, then delete the node. So next I'll write db dot delete method that consists of table name, where clause and where argument. So basically delete method is used to delete rows from a table, like it will go into the table, then based on its condition, it will delete the specific node ID from the column ID, which ultimately going to delete title and content as well. Then lastly, close the database connection. And that's it. Simple, right? So delete node function is ready, and now we will set it on delete button. So for that, go to nodes adapter. Here, as we have to access delete node function from nodes database helper, hence let me quickly declare and initialize nodes database helper. And done. Next, I need to declare and initialize delete button, which we created as an image view in node item, right? So let me quickly write it. And done. Then inside the onBind view holder, I'll write holder dot delete button dot set on click listener, and inside it I'll call delete node function. So for that I'll write db dot delete node, and then inside it I'll specify node dot id, because based on the id we are going to delete the entire row, right? Next, the node is deleted, and now we need to refresh the data or reload the data and get the fresh list of nodes. So to do that, we have already created a function for it as refresh data, right? We have used refresh data function previously in read data. So when the new node is inserted successfully, then the list will refresh itself to provide a fresh set of nodes. And similarly, over here, once the node is deleted, then the list will refresh itself and reload a new set of nodes. Got it? So I'll write refresh data, and inside it db dot get all nodes, and then finally throw a toast as nodes deleted. And that's it. We are done with the coding. See how quick it was? Now let's run the app. This is how it looks. Perfect. So I'll click on delete option, and see the node is successfully deleted. Great, right? And with that said, our fully functional nodes app is ready. Let me give you a quick summary. So we have created separate activity for each CRUD functionality except delete. Plus, with the help of SQLite Open Helper or Nodes Database Helper, we have created all the functions and queries inside it and access all of them in their respective activity. Then with the help of SQLite database browser software, we were able to view stored data in the database. And next, with the help of recycler view and adapter, we were able to display the nodes. And then with the help of getNodeById function, we were able to update the node based on their ID. And then lastly, with the help of delete function, we were able to delete the node. And that's it. Alright, so from September, we'll be starting our Android Kotlin Advanced series, where I will cover topics like API, MVVM, retrofit, coroutines, room database, and many more. So stay tuned for that. And also, for more updates, you can follow us on Instagram or join our Telegram group. Link in the description box. So yeah, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, then please consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.